Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalia Leigh. I'm an indie author and full-time freelance editor, and today I'm going to share some of my tips for brand new writers. I think because I've been doing this a while, not only have I written quite a few books, but I've also been editing full-time for quite a while now. Sometimes I get caught up in the really detail-oriented, like nitty-gritty aspects of writing and storytelling. And it can just be good to get back to basics sometimes. All of us have to start somewhere. All of us are brand new writers at some point. So I thought today I would do a kind of short and sweet video sharing 5 or 6, I can't remember how many are on my list, 5 or 6 tips for brand new writers who are just starting out on their storytelling journey. So if you are looking for a few tips, then just keep watching. Okay, tip number 1 for brand new writers is to pick a point of view and tense and stick with it. This is something I see very, very often when I'm editing. Number 1 is shifting tense. So you're telling your story in past tense, and every so often you are accidentally shifting into present tense. That's something I see a lot, and then something that I probably see even more than shifting tense is shifting POV, accidental shifting of POV, and often that appears in the form of head hopping. So if you're this usually occurs in a third person point of view story. So there is a narrator who's kind of watching the events unfold and they're narrating the story to us, but in a limited third person point of view, the readers should only know what the main character is thinking and feeling. We can't jump into other characters' heads and understand what they're thinking and feeling. We have to stay with our main POV character, and they can learn what other characters are thinking or feeling based on what those other characters say or how they're behaving. So just like in our day-to-day interactions, we have to read body language. We have to understand how somebody is feeling based on the way that they are acting. And sometimes we forget that when we're telling stories. So if you are in especially a third person limited point of view, you want to be really careful to not be head hopping into other characters' heads. And I'm going to keep this video brief and quick and to the point. But if you want a more detailed video regarding any of the topics that I bring up today, let me know in the comments down below, and then I can make an entire video that goes really in depth on these subjects. So yeah, the first thing you want to focus on is being consistent with your tense and your point of view. All right, number 2, this is something that I see in almost every single book I edit. And you know, this is kind of across the board. Even writers who've been writing for a long time or have written quite a few books still struggle with this. So it's just kind of good for all of us to brush up on, and that is how to punctuate dialogue. This can be really tricky, and do not feel bad if it's something you struggle with, because a lot of writers do. And I actually see this so often. I see incorrectly punctuated dialogue so frequently that I have an entire video on this topic. I've already made a video about it, and I also have a video about writing dialogue. So I'm going to link both of those videos down below, writing dialogue and how to punctuate your dialogue appropriately. People are always getting their commas and periods mixed up, you know, using a capital letter when they should be using a lowercase letter for dialogue tags, stuff like that. And then this kind of transitions smoothly into my 3rd tip for new writers, and that is to keep your dialogue tags simple. When we're starting out with writing, especially, because, and I say that because I've been through this too. When I was first starting out with writing, dialogue tags were a bit of a struggle because I felt like the word said, he said this, she said that, etc. I felt like it was just so repetitive and so boring, and I thought, oh, my readers won't like that. So I tried to use all of these, you know, descriptive verbs for how my characters were saying something. They grumbled, or they growled, or they hissed, or they snapped. And while you can certainly use these more descriptive verbs for dialogue tags, you do not want to be using these descriptive verbs all the time. In fact, if you're doing that, it's going to start standing out to readers more. It's going to poke out like a sore thumb, and they're going to notice it, because when you're using dialogue tags like said or asked, those are like the simplest ones that you can use, in my opinion. It kind of fades into the background. It's kind of like white noise for your reader, so they're not paying close attention to that dialogue tag, which is a good thing. Dialogue tags, they can be used in many different ways, of course, but the main point, the main purpose of a dialogue tag is to remind the reader who is speaking so that they're not getting confused. So they always know, okay, this is the character who said that, and then we're gonna shift over here to this character, and now this character is talking. So you want that kind of reminder, you know, hey, I'm just reminding you that Daisy is talking. And, you know, now we're gonna switch and I'm just reminding you that Henry is talking, for example. You don't want that to always be jumping out at your reader. You want that to just go a little bit unnoticed. You want them to still be focusing on the story. So wherever possible, use super simple dialogue tags. You don't need all these crazy verbs to communicate how something is being said. And then we could even take that a step further and discuss show versus tell. But that is an entire video topic. I don't think I've ever done a video on that, which is crazy because that is one of the biggest things that can improve your storytelling, is learning how to show versus tell. So of course you can let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to see that video, but for the sake of just being a new writer, try to keep your dialogue tags simple wherever possible. All right, tip number 4. This is a fun one, and it has to do with your story as a whole, your plot, and that is to sit down and write your book blurb. Now, you could do this at any part of the process. You could even do this as an outlining method if you would like, or you could do it, you know, at the end of your first draft. And I say sit down and write a book blurb because a blurb is meant to be a very short, condensed, exciting version of what your story holds. It's supposed to get somebody excited to sit down and read it, or to pick it up in the bookstore, or to put it in their cart when they're on Amazon, right? So you really want that blurb to be exciting and catchy, and also to communicate the story in an authentic way. You don't want to write this super crazy exciting blurb and then have the reader pick up the book and be like, that blurb lied to me. That's not what this book is about. So I say sit down and write your book blurb at any point in the process, really, because it's going to help you identify if you have any weaknesses in your story. So I need to do an updated video on how to write a book blurb, because I have written, you know, blurbs for myself, and I also have an editing service where I will assist authors in writing their book blurbs. So through working with so many blurbs, I have learned that you can really pinpoint problems in your manuscript just by writing your blurb. So some things you're gonna want to have in your blurb are the main character, what that main character wants, what's getting in the way of your character getting what they want. So that's going to introduce potentially an antagonist and definitely some conflict. And then you're going to want to share the stakes. And the stakes are what is going to happen if your character fails to get the thing that they want. So if you're sitting down to write your blurb and you're like, man, I'm already struggling to figure out what my character wants, then right away you've already identified a weakness in the novel. And, you know, not having your main character not having a want is a big problem to run into. So that's something that you're going to want to know before sending it off to beta readers, or before sending it off for a critique or for a developmental edit. So by sitting down and writing that book blurb, it's going to be real short, 100, 200 words, you know, 300 if you absolutely have to. But by keeping it really, really short and condensing your entire story into that little tiny summary, it's going to help you identify those weaknesses and those problems without having to read the entire manuscript to try to figure out if you have any big like holes that you need to work to fill. So if you want an entire updated video on my tips for writing a book blurb, let me know in the comments down below. All right, tip number 5. This could be potentially the hardest or the easiest tip in this video, and that is to not worry about getting everything right. When I sat down to write my first book and inevitably failed and, you know, tried to write my second book, my third book, and my fourth book, and however many books I sat down and tried to write and then failed to finish, I always felt this heavy burden on my shoulders. Like I was carrying a lot of weight because I kept thinking, this has to be perfect. I have to get it right. This book has to be as good as, you know, the books that I really enjoy. And I have to be able to write in the way that my favorite authors write. And that is just not a healthy way to go about working on a story and telling a story. You don't need to get it right the first time. And honestly, you're probably not going to. I mean, even in saying that, like I have written quite a few books. I have published 4 books, and I am still learning. I am perpetually learning about storytelling, character development, how to draw the reader in and to keep them immersed in the world that I've created for them. You're never going to get it right the first time. You might not even be getting it right the 10th time, but getting it right is not the purpose of telling a story. The purpose of telling a story is to enjoy it, to explore something new or different, to dive into you know, a totally different world or realm than the one that we live in. And then through doing that and through deriving joy from that thing and then working hard to polish it and publish it so that other people can read it, then they can gain joy through that as well. And you allow them to step through, you know, a portal into another world. So if you're struggling to write your first book because you're just so stressed out and you keep thinking, I'm not doing this right, I don't know what filtering is, I don't know the difference between show versus tell, I'm never going to be able to do this, just stop all that negative thought, you know, all that stress, put it in a box, put it away, focus on it at some other time after you've finished writing a couple of novels. But for now, just focus on the joy of it. Focus on what made you want to tell this story, what excites you about this story, what is driving you to sit down and work on it, even when it's really hard, because every single book is really hard to write. You're going to struggle probably throughout the process. My favorite part of the process is publishing the book so that I don't have to work on it anymore. But just have a good time. Don't stress yourself out. Don't carry that like backpack of burden every single time you sit down at your desk to work on your story. Have fun with it. Do it for the joy of writing, and do it because you know that you're going to bring your readers joy as well when you finally get around to publishing the book. So that's just a little bit, hopefully, of inspiration and good words for you there. So super simple, 5 tips for brand new writers. I will link some videos below that I talked about or that I feel would be helpful for brand new beginner writers. And if you want me to go more in depth on any of these topics and film a brand new video about it, please just let me know in the comments down below. I did post a video recently explaining that this channel is going to be solely focused on writing, editing, and publishing now. So I'm definitely looking to bulk up my list of video ideas. So again, any requests, leave them in the comments down below and I'll add them to my list of videos that I want to film. So thank you guys so much for watching today. If you are looking for any indie author services, you can come check us out at enchantedinkpublishing.com. We are booking late into 2021 and early 2022 at this point. So if you think you're going to want to work with us on any editing projects, make sure that you are getting to us now rather than later. We usually book out minimum 6 months in advance. So do keep that in mind. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.